Hello, I'm Darren Magee, and today's questions are asking, what is the dark personality? What are the common characteristics of someone who has a dark personality? And is the dark personality just another term for narcissism? And these are interesting questions because sometimes we might meet someone who can be difficult, they can be selfish, they can be manipulative, and we'll just say they're a narcissist. Now, they could well be narcissistic, however, narcissism is only one of 9 traits to be found in the dark personality. Researchers Zettler, Moshagen and Hilbeg found common tendencies that run through all 9 traits, and they call them the D factor. Those tendencies being to maximize themselves while disregarding, disempowering, and even malevolently provoking others, but also justifying their behavior due to their belief that it's okay to, because others are below them. And although we see different traits, a lot of the behaviors can be very similar, if not the same. However, the reasons behind the behavior, the motivations, can differ. For example, someone explodes into a rage over something trivial. It could be because they just enjoy intimidating others. They love the fear that causes. So there we would see sadism. Or maybe they feel their ego has been bruised somehow. So there we would see narcissism, and this would often be referred to as narcissistic rage. Or there could be no anger there at all. It is just an act to get them what they want. So there we would see manipulation. So I'm going to look at the 9 traits of the dark personality, and if someone has one of them, according to the research, chances are they'll have more. But then I'm going to look at how these behaviors manifest themselves whenever these traits co-occur together. And as I go through the 9 traits, try to remember it is not a one-size-fits-all, because some of these traits can be stronger, they can be more dominant than others. Other traits maybe not so much, maybe they only come and go in certain situations. So first of all, there is egoism. Now this could be characterized by being extremely selfish. It is an excessive preoccupation with their own advantage, their own status, their own happiness, regardless of, and sometimes even at the expense of others. Even in friendships, even in partnerships, they can be very disagreeable and very competitive. They are the most intelligent, they are the most important, they are the most accomplished, the most attractive, and if they see any of these traits or any of these characteristics in other people, they can feel threatened. Secondly, there's Machiavellianism. Now, this is being manipulative and scheming, but not necessarily in a clumsy, silly, haphazard kind of way. This can be very calculated and strategic. For example, they know how to delay their gratification. Situations are there to be exploited. Other people are there to be taken advantage of, and that includes those closest to them. If they do something that is generous or kind, it is only if there is something in it for them. If they are cold, callous, or cruel, it's not necessarily for their pleasure, it's to get them closer to what it is they want. If you will, the end justifies the means. Thirdly, there is moral disengagement. Now, this is thinking and behaving any way they like without the constraints of feeling guilt or distress. Someone who is morally disengaged behaves as though ethics and rules don't apply to them. There can be no thought as to what's right or what's wrong, so act without conscience and have little concern for consequences. Number 4 is narcissism, and this is characterized by being self-absorbed. There is a sense of superiority and self-importance. There are delusions of grandeur. There's being disagreeable. There is also a lack of empathy and an extreme need for attention and validation from others. They can be very envious of others and believe that others are or should be envious of them. They can also be highly resistant to criticism and look down upon others with contempt. Number 5, there is psychological entitlement. Now, this is a strong belief that they are better than everyone else. They are special and therefore deserve the best or special treatment. Again, we see a selfishness there. Their own demands are more important than everybody else's needs. Number 6, psychopathy. Now, this can include dishonesty, pathological lying, sensation-seeking behaviors, and again, there is a lack of empathy. There is also aggression and callousness and a lack of humility. They don't feel emotions the way other people do, so often act without conscience, remorse, or regret. And there can be a level of self-control, however there can also be a level of impulsiveness. Number 7 is sadism. Now this is characterized by being antagonistic, deriving pleasure from inflicting physical or mental harm on others, or dominating others through intimidation and humiliation. And the sadism, it can be verbal, it can be physical, or it can be vicarious, meaning they just enjoy seeing other people in pain, even if they didn't cause it. And number 8 is self-interest. Now this is a desire not only to further, but to highlight their own status, be that social, financial, or their accomplishments. Anything they do, even acts of kindness, are for their own benefit, just like with Machiavellianism. Any sacrifice, any altruism usually has an audience. Now, if they can't improve themselves somehow, they may try to sabotage others who are trying to improve themselves in case they lose their perceived status. Which leads me on to the last one, number 9, and that is spitefulness. And this can be being very destructive towards others. There is a willingness to harm, to sabotage, or destroy others out of envy, out of jealousy, or just for fun. Sometimes that spitefulness might be for no other reason than they just see someone else who is happy. They can be very resentful of others, but sometimes that resentment can be actually quite self-destructive. As that old expression goes, cutting off their nose to spite their face. They can get hurt while trying to hurt others, and yet still blame the victim. So there are the 9 traits of the dark personality. Now, as I said a moment ago, if someone has one of these traits, the research suggests they will have other traits as well. So, what do they look like when they are co-occurring together? Well, if someone is narcissistic, they might also exhibit spiteful behaviors. If someone is manipulative, they may be morally disengaged. If someone exhibits a certain malevolent behavior, such as causing and enjoying other people's pain, there is a high likelihood they will behave in other malevolent ways, such as lying and cheating. I think we might see people who are high in extroversion and low in agreeableness, people who can be very controlling, very domineering. I think there can be an arrogance or ruthlessness and fantasies over being powerful. They lie and scheme either because it furthers their agenda or they just enjoy fooling others. I have found that people with high narcissistic traits, especially when some of these other traits are present as well, can be very destructive. They tend to destroy things from the inside, things like relationships, workplaces, and organizations. But when they can no longer destroy things from the inside, they tend to try to destroy them from the outside. And I think that's where we see the spitefulness. And although they may lack empathy, that does not mean no empathy. What we often see is a cognitive empathy. In other words, they understand emotion, they understand feelings, and they can read people quite well, so they know how to flatter as well as how to hurt. And they know how to excite as well as how to shame. They also know how to exploit a sense of victimhood as a means to both dominate and excuse their behavior at the same time. So there we see the manipulation. And it can be difficult to reason with or to try to help someone with these kinds of traits because, well, first of all, they may be unaware of them. If they are aware of them, maybe they think they're fine. They don't need any help. They are perfectly justified in what they are doing. There we would see the psychological entitlement. Any attempt to address these behaviors can bring about a rage, or they may even take pride in these qualities, actually enjoy being the way they are, and enjoy the pain and the misery they leave in their wake. There we would see the sadism. Now, that being said, there are always exceptions. Sometimes there can be a level of awareness. They may be quite high functioning and recognize they are hurting themselves as well as hurting others. And with the right kind of help, the right kind of support, they can change, but it takes time, it takes commitment, and it takes hard work. It also requires them having to be honest with themselves. So that's a brief outline of the 9 traits of the dark personality. If there's anything you'd like to add, please use the comment box below. There are some interesting conversations started around these videos. But if you liked this video, if you found it interesting or helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel for future updates on mental health related topics. And until next time, thanks for watching.